I had conversations with the president long before this moment came. My advice to him was provide them the armament earlier to deter Putin from ever making these decisions. And the entire time, President Biden always said it would be the sanctions afterwards. And then when the sanctions came, he said it'd take months to work. Well, Ukrainian people cannot wait months. The world cannot wait months if we sit by and watch innocent people being murdered. You've watched a leader stand in a capital that's being bombed, not requesting that American men and women go into war. Simply help us provide the weapons that we can defend ourselves. This is an unwarranted war that they did not ask for, but they're willing to defend the right of freedom. We should stand with anyone who's willing to defend freedom and against the atrocities that Putin is doing.
Here, Kevin McCarthy, desperate for something to blame Biden for, slams the president for waiting to impose sanctions after Russia invaded Ukraine. Except Biden's rationale was completely reasonable. If Biden's goal was to try and prevent an invasion, how would imposing sanctions before that invasion be anything of a deterrent? If you throw the kitchen sink at Russia beforehand, then what do they have to lose? Now, granted, Putin did decide to invade anyway, but 99 times out of 100, if you're trying to avoid escalation, you probably save the punishment until after the crime is committed. And of course McCarthy knows that, but his only priority is Monday morning quarterbacking and looking for something to attack Biden for. The fact is that Biden's been beyond responsive, from moving to impose sweeping sanctions immediately after Putin made the decision to invade, to ramping up those sanctions, to supplying Ukraine with military lethal aid and non-lethal aid, up to his move in the last 24 hours to supply an additional $800 million in military support, including 800 anti-aircraft systems, 9,000 anti-armor systems, 7,000 small arms like shotguns and grenade launchers, as well as drones and other military equipment. And granted, we could always offer more. Every country in the world could always offer more while still stopping short of sparking any direct conflict with Russia. But what's most ironic about all of this is that clearly Kevin McCarthy has very high standards when it comes to helping Ukraine. If all that Biden's done, which by the way amounts to the most crippling and far-reaching sanctions in the history of the world, if all of that is still not good enough for McCarthy, then I think we can all safely assume that Kevin McCarthy's bar for helping Ukraine is extremely high in the face of Russian aggression, which begs the question, why did Kevin McCarthy vote to absolve Trump of withholding military aid to Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression while Trump was holding that aid hostage to extort Zelensky for dirt on Biden? It's almost like, and bear with me here, McCarthy's full of shit and the goalposts are constantly moving because he doesn't actually stand for anything. And by the way, for anyone saying, oh, well, that was different because when McCarthy voted to absolve Trump in 2019, Russia hadn't yet invaded Ukraine. Russia's war on Ukraine has been going on since 2014. Russian troops invaded Crimea 8 years ago, and immediately thereafter, Russia and Ukraine have been immersed in the war in Donbass. Was that not aggressive enough for Kevin McCarthy back then? Or is it just that fucking over Zelensky isn't politically convenient for McCarthy now? Because I think I know which one of those two I'd choose. So as Kevin McCarthy continues to attack Joe Biden for not doing enough, while Biden's leading the world in the most unified and devastating economic response to an invasion in history, pay attention to McCarthy's actions instead of his empty virtue signaling. Because back when he had the chance to show how important protecting Ukraine was, just remember that he opted to do nothing. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.